recording. There you go.
Well, let's see, do we have a quorum? Is there 5 of us?
Yeah.
7.
4.
Yeah.
We have 7. So us 3, Marcy, Joanne,
Jeff.
Midge, Jeff.
Yeah.
So we need 2 more. Oh, here's one, great.
Now we have a quorum.
Oh, Joanne did not see these either. Okay, I will leave them out then. Hey, Joanne. Hello.
There she is.
Are those the sheets the high schoolers?
Yeah, this is, so I'll lay them out as they were laid out.
Did you send out minutes?
I'm trying to remember if I did.
No,
I couldn't find
You're
it.
like,
I
no.
looked and
no,
looked.
you didn't.
So this is the
I don't know
original,
which meeting.
and then this is from the high school. So there was a small group of
Yeah.
high schoolers, and they gave them
Wow.
new magazine. So they were to
What?
put on there, like, what would you, here's a spot in, what would you like it to be? And so
Oh,
they did that.
really?
Yeah, isn't that cool?
Isn't that wonderful?
Here's another one.
Yeah, this would be great.
Yeah.
You were very creative.
Pond
Oh,
with
how
fish.
exciting. Did you go?
I couldn't go. This one is supposed to be a golf course.
It's not Angela was telling us about it. Or no, Myrna was telling us about it.
Yeah, yeah,
It's so good.
yeah.
Hi.
Oh, hello.
Hi.
Brent. Hi, Brent. We have,
We almost went away from the great cameras.
yeah, the camera's over there.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm just laying out, the pictures of the, from the high school session.
Myrna, can you hear us okay?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. I think we put the poster on the speaker on one of them.
Is
Terry.
that Terry I hear talking?
Yes.
These are great.
I'm Heidi.
I've heard so many great comments
This is what the kids did.
that visit. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
But this is instead of the cement plant, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah, we go with that.
Instead of the cement plant, how beautiful.
But apparently Bojo's coffee is like the best coffee in town, according to the
That's what the kids say.
the few that were there.
Well, that's what they could walk to, right?
Yeah, right,
Easily.
yeah, probably.
This is great work, you guys. I'm so sorry I missed that.
This is the kids?
Yeah, this is the high school.
I love it. Pond with fish, I like that.
Okay, so you kind of get that, this one is,
Yep.
so they were to add, and then this one is this one. And then
Oh
that
my
one,
God.
that one.
Wow.
And that one I think
More.
is the cement plant because it doesn't have, they made them all, they all picked that one, is that right?
Funny that they mentioned free Wi-Fi for everybody.
Okay, so,
Oh, isn't that a good idea?
Brick, they love the brick.
It's garden.
More housing. See, they mentioned more housing.
so we're waiting,
The
we don't,
kids did.
But they like the brick. Here's another
Yeah.
comment.
now we have a quorum, okay.
More trees,
Okay,
yep.
now we have a quorum, so,
Oh,
Cool.
while they're looking,
How was
I'll
your
just
trip then?
call the meeting
It
to
was
order.
great. You didn't wear out?
Yeah.
Oh, good for you.
wonderful weather, wonderful pavement, we drove biking.
Sounds
Oh,
order.
good. I know you were biking.
Start
That's
meeting.
why I said.
The people
And
were
then,
fun. I-
the roll
I had a
call,
wonderful time.
Oh,
Well,
I'm so
I'm
glad.
Let
sorry,
the
so
minute-
sorry I missed the visit.
show
Yeah, but
that
you had a
we
wonderful
have
time.
I did.
all members here except
Cool park.
Marcy
Good call.
and,
Cool.
Yeah.
and Jeff. Yep.
Love it. I love it. Food court, ooh, something to do, yay. Water park, genius.
Yeah, one of their comments, we talked about it, and you guys weren't here, but, then our wrap-up was that the high school would like us to have more restaurants that they can go to at lunchtime.
Right,
Or some, you know, food trucks or something.
I heard that, yeah.
Well, that makes, I see them at the grocery store.
So they were excited about the pea cannery having a coffee shop.
Yes,
Oh, were they?
To have
Yeah.
food, yeah, if they could walk there.
And it's a cool place.
In a couple blocks,
Yeah,
you know,
definitely. Okay, so back to the meeting, approval of the minutes, we're gonna table that because we aren't quite sure if we need to, we'll revisit that at our next meeting. Does that require a motion? Does anybody know?
Second motion to table the minutes till next time.
Okay, we have a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Nope.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, thank you all.
Definitely. They don't-
Okay, so really all we have today for our meeting is, the main discussion point is just to talk about the KSU top visit. And, we have not received anything from them, which we didn't expect. So, we didn't expect to receive anything from them, but, they said maybe they'll get something to us by July, but for sure August. So, I guess maybe first I'll ask, since Myrna's joining us, Myrna, do you have any comments or updates or any communication that you've had with them? Or any thoughts at all? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I will, did you see that Kate said that she wasn't gonna be able to attend tonight?
I
Um,
didn't assume
it
that she would.
just
yeah, I
came through at 5:09, but, yeah, so she said we put together a follow-up survey that our evaluations team is putting into Qualtrics tomorrow. So I should be able to share a link and a flyer with that information by the end of tomorrow. And they have an intern compiling and analyzing all the feedback. So by the next board meeting, looks like they'll probably have a better update. Yeah, and I don't have a whole lot, just real quick. My husband had surgery last Thursday and I just got him home about a half hour ago. So I thought, I'm just gonna jump on really quick if you have questions or anything, but I probably won't stay the whole time.
Oh my goodness.
We want to know how he's doing.
He's doing well. It was a very major spinal surgery. So it's gonna be a long recovery, but no, we're very thankful. Things are going well. Thanks.
Myrna, could you share what you shared at the housing meeting about the visit to the pea cannery?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And like Jeremy and his wife were there, and Perry and Angela and Brad and a bunch of people from the community. And, initially I was like, oh no, they were only expecting, 10 or 12 people. And so I was a little nervous, but they were fine with that. And it was just awesome to have so many people get to see what's going on there. And, yeah, they're just very humble people who are, really trying to do something really cool with this old historic building. And I just think it's the more people who see what's happening there, because I couldn't believe it when somebody said, I don't know if it was Roxy or Sophia, but somebody said, yeah, I know not everybody's happy to have us here. And I think there's been at least, there's always going to be some people who are like, oh, some rich person bought it and they're going to try to, do this and that and, not really knowing. And I was like, they have to actually work hard to keep making enough money to keep doing what they're doing. And I think their main goal is just to be an important part of the community and not come in and change anything unless it's for the better. Isn't that the
Yeah.
impression you got,
Yeah.
those of you who were there?
Yes,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I liked, I thought it was interesting. I think it was, can't remember which one of them said it, but some portion of it is gonna be a nonprofit foundation style model.
Wow.
no, they set it all up under
Okay.
a nonprofit
All of it?
foundation. Yeah, so they were just making their last payment to, on the loan that they had. They said they were making their last payment, and then they formed a 501c3 nonprofit foundation that will all operate under. And I thought it was funny, Roxy said, yeah, all that stuff you see out there, I have a commission, I think you said Dallas or Fort Worth or somewhere. I have this commission that I have to finish in order to keep paying for this place, so.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I just have to share, like, I went to Washington DC last week. I got there Friday and walked around Saturday, and I'm just walking around, and I'm like,
That's a lot
There-
to be paying, yeah.
Yeah.
it was, and I thought,
What?
yeah, I'll send you all, I meant to send a picture.
Oh.
So I sent a picture, so, yeah,
Look at his sculptures?
yeah, it was in the, I don't know where, it was in.
National Gallery, I think.
I think so,
Yeah.
sculpture, it was
Really?
outside,
Oh.
right in the middle of the
Wow.
heart of everything in DC, so that
Wow.
was pretty, they're very
Yeah,
striking.
yeah. One of the women that was at the walkthrough, she, works for Tippett Rise, and
Oh, yeah.
she said, I'm here because I've been a fan of Roxy Paint since I was 8 years old.
Wow.
And I grew up in Fort Worth, Texas, and there's the sculptures featured there. And I fell in love with the sculpture at 8 years old and
Oh my
been
God,
following them, so.
wow.
Another
Shoot.
cool thing, oh, sorry. Another
No, no,
cool
good.
thing is Blake, from KSU, he was a little geeked out about meeting Roxy because they were
Yeah.
somewhere, and I can't even remember where, like a Crystal Bridge down in Arkansas or Alabama or somewhere.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it was him, like, he didn't realize until you guys did that drive through the URD, and he saw the sculpture he's working on, and he's like, man, I think that, and he looked up and he was like kind of mind blown,
Start, yeah. Yeah,
That's
that was
cool.
really neat. Yeah.
I'm so happy.
Yep. That's
Thanks,
awesome.
Maria.
Yeah, thank you so much, Myrna, gosh, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I can stay for a little bit. I'm curious to hear what everybody else thought about it. And I guess, overall, I just thought it was a great week and good engagement. I loved the activities they did to get people involved, and from Cattail Bakery to Red Lodge Ales to the community meeting to the student meeting. I guess the only negative is I think some of the small meetings, like with the city and stuff, I wish there'd have been a few more people at those, but timing.
well, having Brian Hannett there with the mayor was good. Brian's a good source of information, so.
Yeah, I was there with Terry, and I learned so much.
Mhm.
I didn't know a lot of that stuff about the rules and how you had to do things, and
Yeah,
she was an eye-opener for me about all the things you have to juggle just to get something through, But, yeah, I'm glad. It was really an eye-opener for me, the city meeting.
Great.
I thought they did a good job going deep.
Oh, really?
Didn't you, Perry? I thought they really got into the weeds.
yeah, they did, and it was kind of a bigger, at some points, a broader conversation than just the URD. It was-
Okay, yeah.
And there is some other development, and I think that's something we don't get enough information about.
Yeah.
And I don't know how we address that, but there are other, and I'm not sure if you guys talked about it at the housing meeting, but there's proposals for some housing development around town, just outside of the URD, that, is gonna address, I think it was 2 4-plexes and a 3-plex.
Do you remember which direction? Yeah. where
It's by Napa.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Right over here.
That lot that's right across.
The lot that goes from Hagan to
Yeah.
Cooper.
Yeah, there are a lot of things in the works that I
Yeah.
hadn't heard of before.
Do
It'd
we
be
have
kinda-
any idea who's building or who's planning to build or who?
Know who the owner of the lot is, but I don't know who the builder is, but,
Maybe,
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say maybe that's something we can put on the list for next time, is to ask Dave, if he'd be willing to kind of give us like a context report. something
That's a
like,
great
Yeah.
idea.
Good
you know,
idea.
like what else is going on.
Good
That's
idea.
something that Corey would do for us early on.
Well, and Brian also talked about how many lots, developable lots there are in the city, and it was a staggering number. I think we all kind of walked out of there like, really?
Where are they?
Yeah, theoretically buildable and what the owners will actually.
Well, there's the other half of Spires, which
Yeah.
hasn't even opened up yet, and, yeah, so.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's not developed yet at all.
Yeah.
That's-
It's approved, but not developed, so.
That's really important because we don't, the district is not in a vacuum. It is
Right.
a part of the whole
Mhm.
town, so that's really important.
And I don't know who this young lady
Oh.
is. You are cuter than Dave, I will have to tell you that. I'll
Take
tell
the
him you said that.
compliment,
I know, I'll tell him you said that.
Hmm.
I'm Jody Ronning. I'm the president of City Council, and Dave asked me to step in and do this.
Thank you, thanks for being here.
You can come anytime. Okay, thank you.
Well, something I've been thinking about since our last meeting, and, you know, the planning board, some were able to attend the community, discussion.
Yeah.
But the others were at their planning board meeting, and I don't know, I think at some point it would be helpful, since basically everything we do needs to go to them.
Yeah.
If we met together.
Yeah.
And, I mean, not that Jeff doesn't represent us well, it's
Uh-huh.
just that
Yeah.
I think we need to be more than a 1-minute conversation
Yeah.
at their meeting, especially once we get this information back from
Okay, yeah.
KSU.
Oh, that's a really good idea.
That
Have
is
a
a great
report
idea.
out to the planning committee.
And I'd be
Yeah.
curious to know what they're working on. What are some of their goals,
Yeah.
their projects, and so on.
We can always go to their meetings, so.
Oh, good, another meeting.
Yeah.
I see Brent's iPhone. I'm wondering if that is Brent Moore. And Brent, I don't know if you are in a spot where you can visit, but do you have any observations to share?
I'm just here listening. I mean, I live on the edge of the district, as Jeremy knows, and also we represent Roxy and Sophie. So,
Yeah.
and we're also meeting with the city on some of their projects too, and so I'm sure you'll hear about that at some point in time. But many of you that were there already got some insights. So,
Yeah, well, Brent, I'm glad you're actually on, because I talked to Sophia and I talked to Mayor Dave too afterwards, but I know they want to have the end of the street, which I can't remember the name, that goes back behind.
yeah, Bonner.
Yeah, they want it, Bonner, yeah, they want to have that abandoned and be able to make it into parking space.
Correct.
I think, you know, we haven't all discussed it, but I think we should. I think it's an awesome idea, because it serves no purpose currently. It's partly parking behind the zip trip, but, I think, you know, that's something we can talk about amongst ourselves, and maybe that's something we recommend that the planning board, since it's in the URD, that the planning board.
That's something we could do. That's a quick one.
Yeah.
We could do easily, it doesn't cost anything.
Well, I think we could help with landscaping if we wanted to. We
Well,
don't have to
we could do
spend any money,
landscaping,
but,
but I mean, if we could commit that right away, it
Yeah.
would make them feel a lot more comfortable
yeah.
going forward with.
And
this
she brought it up because she's nervous about it,
Right.
you know, and it's like.
See, I would say too, to be cautious about that, all of the street abandonments also have to go to council. And
Yeah, I know.
council, no, but I'm just telling you, council has pretty much stopped abandoning things
Oh,
because of, you know, if we do ever annex the property behind there, that will be a through street. And, you know, so there's a lot of future plans at stake, and, there was, I don't remember when it happened, but there was, and a resolution is not binding, but there was a resolution that said the city council, unless absolutely necessary, would quit abandoning city right-of-ways and city property.
So Mead lumber, that's not their property, that is just at the end, because Bonner ends at Mead Spence.
Bonner, well, Bonner goes, there's the houses there, on which side are you talking about,
On the north side, behind Zip Trip, you run into, behind Zip Trip, you run into Rocky Mountain Tires, and Mead actually has. your-
Right.
So,
Yeah, and I don't know that it was ever abandoned, you know, So, I mean, I'm just telling you
It's like a
that
warning.
it's a warning,
Yeah.
that
Oh, I know,
it
I
may
get-
not be, it's great and wonderful to proceed with the plan,
Right.
but there's a lot of steps involved to abandon city.
Yeah.
City right away. And Brent knows this because he works.
Yeah,
for
and
the
so,
city.
yeah, so the
Right.
first,
No, I-
yeah, for the, right, so the
But
first
it's
step,
worth it.
right, yeah, just so the first step is we have a meeting with the city, with the mayor and the planner and the city's engineer and the public works director on Wednesday morning to begin this discussion. So we're starting with city staff and the mayor, and there may be a time where Roxy and Sophia come to the URD to ask you to support them. But at this time, we're going through the appropriate steps of meeting with the city staff. I mean, the reason why it's also urgent, I mean, a couple urgent related issues is that their goal is to open next summer. And the city also is in the process of bidding a project which will go right in front of their property. So there could be some advantages to having Bonner incorporated into the city's bid, even though the city would not pay for it. So that when that project is built, it can be built together with the other one. That makes the most logistical sense for everyone. So anyways, it's a positive first meeting. And I'm sure we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, that's great. So the wheels
And-
are in motion.
Thanks for the update, Brent.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Brent, I wanted to thank you also for presenting at that community meeting. That was really valuable and just nice to get that in front of the people who were there. So thank you for all that you've been doing.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah. Okay, any other observations or thoughts or? I don't know, it's been a great week.
Well, there was, Perry brought, there was a nice article in the paper.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
nice article in the paper. Let me share with you, Marcy sent just some comments, I presume that she wanted me to share. She said, my take from the site visit, because she said she only has 2 people in her shop until 7, so she might not be able to come over. She says, my take from the site visit, I had 2 people at my table that were very grumbly and negative. Not sure why they were there. Didn't want to take part in table discussions, commented on how everyone in the room needs to turn their hearing aids up, etc.
Grumpy.
The high school girls were awesome, so that's the group at the high school. It was small, I think 6 people there now?
6 kids, yeah.
Okay. Small but very typical, ultra engaged and dynamic group. The team was not happy at first with the small group, but their input and willingness to be there changed that very quickly. So, I don't know, that was Marcy's 2 cents.
Cool.
Yeah,
I'm glad some of the grumblers showed up actually, because
yes, you need
Yes, it was a hard time.
Trying to remember where Marcy was sitting now.
I know.
it's tough to sit through a whole engagement like that without, and still maintain a frown, right?
Yeah.
I feel like it was good for him.
Good. Yeah, you need the naysayer, you can't have just all.
Well, I was impressed that Spencer from Red Lodge, he's the acting mountain manager, was actually there.
That was
So,
nice
yeah,
too, yeah.
that
Good.
was good to see them part of the conversation. So,
Yeah.
How many people, did anybody do a head count at the community meeting, and how many were there?
50, 60?
Yeah.
They said about 50, yeah.
50.
It was the full room, like,
It was at the Roosevelt.
at the Roosevelt, yeah, I think maybe there was two
2 tables
tables
were empty.
that were empty,
Yeah.
but all the other tables were,
Great,
you know,
great.
well occupied.
So everybody was set up at tables so that you had an automatic group to talk to.
Yeah,
But it was random.
Clever idea,
It was random. They didn't assign people.
right.
Yeah.
It was just.
But you weren't just sitting in rows.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
So
that's a great idea.
when people said that people in the district were not represented, well, there was a couple at my table who lived in the district.
Yeah.
And they were, really had a lot to contribute.
Yeah, we
And
had one at our
very
table
interested
that lived in the district.
and- Great, too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And-
So I think there were more than people knew, you know?
yeah,
And then I wanted to comment about the survey. I talked about this at the housing meeting too.
mhm.
The final survey.
Yeah,
So, the people that came up to me and said we needed more representation, well, we did, especially with the businesses, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah,
I think we can really target
yeah.
that last survey. We could go door to door with it
Yeah.
and really get their feedback so that they can't say that, you know,
They weren't heard.
well, that they weren't heard and that we didn't try, you know,
Yeah.
to listen to their
Yeah.
perspective. So I think if we each take a couple
Mm.
and take the survey in hand and.
Yeah.
Well, I have to admit, I'm disappointed that the chamber stand is, we don't want businesses that that aren't like accountants and attorneys and title companies and dentists and.
I thought it was the opposite of what I heard. Like,
No.
they wanted more of that in the
Yeah.
district.
Yeah, no, that's what they
Yeah,
want. They
yeah.
don't want anybody other
That's
than
not
that.
that, I see what you're
Yeah.
saying, yeah.
And
That is
honestly,
the
That
conversation.
is a business owner stance, though, downtown businesses, is to
Well, but
protect
we
the
don't have-
downtown area.
we don't have like a universal, I mean, every business opportunity possible is not represented on Main Street, you know, on Broadway.
And what I heard was that the makers, you know, it would be a wonderful place for the makers, you know, the
Crafts, yeah.
crafts,
Yeah.
potters,
Early wood, for
early
example.
wood, things
Yeah.
like that.
Like
Yeah.
Margaret has her hand up.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, I'm sorry. Oh, go ahead, Myrna.
Yeah, no, I just, Joanne mentioned that follow-up survey and, not all of you, I don't think we're at our final meeting where we followed up, but, just, we'll make sure that we get that out to all the business owners so they can get it to their employees and really try
Good.
to get that missing piece that everybody felt like from the surveys and that weren't at the community meetings, maybe because they were working. So we can do that. And as for the business owners, what I heard was, well, we don't want to take business away from the downtown. But I still really feel like anybody who's coming to Red Lodge to do like some shopping and stuff, if there's a business out there, they're not gonna go to that and then go, well, I'm done. I'm not gonna go downtown. You know, like, I guess
Yeah.
I don't really feel like that's a huge issue.
Well, it was in the growth plan and then it was removed. I was at the planning board meeting when they took it out. They kind of wanted to cherry pick the business development in the community, and, I mean, that's a path you don't want to go down. I mean, it's,
We do have in our growth policy, though, and the city has adopted it to protect our downtown historic district.
yes,
Sure.
And so what the planning board is doing when they're doing that is they're following that edict, that they are going to protect the downtown historic district and try not to make duplicates in other areas of the town with that growth policy.
right, and that's good, but.
So that's why, they're not necessarily cherry picking it, but they are, you know, protecting the core downtown historic area.
Well, all I was saying, Jody, is that if there's a business that someone wants to establish, if we were to do commercial development on that into, you know, the North District, if they wanted to pursue something that's not already here, I don't think that's a bad thing. Even if it's not an accountant or,
Yeah,
you know,
and,
I think we have to be careful the language we use for development on the north elevation as well.
well, and I think, anybody can put anything out there as long as it follows our planning and our zoning guidelines. If they want to use URD funding, then we absolutely can decide if they can
Yeah.
use the URD funding to do that. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the fine line there.
Yeah,
So,
no, that's fully understood, and
Yeah.
that's
And it
actually-
is a fine line to not become elitist. And it's a not invented here mentality, but we can't have that would be not good. Because that divides the community and that's not helpful.
Well,
Yeah.
if you try to put a Walmart out there, or a
Yeah.
Costco,
Yeah, no.
you will, or
Big
any
box.
other big box stores, you're going to
No.
have a huge uprising of people in Red Lodge, and that's elitist. I mean, it's just, but that's the way it's been, so.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's interested in,
So,
you know, that type of development, but
No,
it's,
much parking.
and that's also something, and I don't know, Myrna, I think you were part of that when we met with the city folks the idea of maybe thinking differently about zoning for the, North City entrance. Blake brought it up, a different type of zoning instead of just the standard Euclidean zoning, but looking at
Oh, yes.
form
wasn't that
zoning.
Mhm.
And,
That was fascinating. I
yeah,
didn't know more
I've done a
about
little bit more reading on it, and it's obviously something that the planning and zoning board would have to,
Nonprofit.
yeah, but, I mean, that's,
But the thing that we can have that just for the urban renewal district, and the rest of the town could have the other type of zoning.
I think
which
Blake-
They already have.
I think Blake's gonna put more of that information
Yeah.
when he comes.
I thought that
Comes
was,
back with-
he talked about a lot of examples
Yeah.
of other towns that have done that. That sounded really intriguing. It was a whole, it was a thou shalt, the difference between thou shalt not and thou shall, you
Yeah.
know, attitude. Positive directives for things they would like to see rather than
What you can do, what you can't do.
restricting,
Yeah.
it to a certain thing.
And it never hurts to bring ideas up, because that excites people's imagination
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah,
and energy.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
and
if
just
you-
to know there are options, you know, that we don't have to do it the way it's always.
Yeah, well, if you look at what the kids,
Don't? No.
you know, it's things that they imagine, that, I mean, that's, everything we discussed is very mixed use.
That's right.
It's
Yeah.
kind of
Right,
Great, they look
difficult
great.
to zone for, so.
Yeah.
and water.
I'm curious what the planning board using the defending of historical downtown, would they go through these pictures and put big red X's on?
I don't know that they would do that. I just, when it was first presented for the urban renewal district, there was a lot of, storefronts on the main floor and apartments
Yeah.
upstairs, and I mean, that's exactly what our historic downtown is.
Right.
And it was advertised as extending it, but our core downtown, our historic downtown, the people that are there have very hard time staying in business.
Mhm.
You know, we have a high turnover of businesses. Back in 1987, when we moved here, there were so many vacant buildings, they were in horrible shape.
Yep.
And downtown worked extremely hard through the Main Street program that we were able to get back in 2004 and get grant funding to help fix up the buildings, to try to, have people have more universal hours, everyone be open, to try to help people, with the Main Street director at that time to market, and then which then became part of the chamber with the marketing, the CVB, and they've really worked really hard to make our downtown vital, and they've revitalized the downtown. And I mean, there's that plaque right there, the Red Light Revitalization
Yep.
Program, So, I mean, the Main Street we have right now is not Main Street from 1987
Mhm.
at all.
Mm.
And a bunch of people worked really, really hard to make it what it is. And we could lose that, they don't want to, it's a constant battle to keep the buildings, so both buildings in good shape, to try to help businesses succeed, to have grant funding available for that. So, I mean, that's where they're coming from.
Yeah, understood.
Well, so we will hopefully have more information from KFCU tab for our July meeting, and I'm just looking at my calendar. It looks like we would meet on the 14th of July.
Bastille Day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just, yeah.
Along the fall,
We
along
can-
the tree.
We can bring some pate and,
Let's have a revolution.
there we go.
July 14th, okay.
Does that work for you all?
As far as I know, it seems like it's way out there, but
Yeah,
that's a Monday.
5:30, yeah.
okay,
Sure.
Future.
all right. Okay, well, we will sign on
And
that.
I have a question, what is gonna happen to all these cool pictures with the comments? Because those are so great. Those need to be someplace where people can see them
Yeah.
and see what these kids were willing to put up.
Mm-hmm.
I love it, it's so energizing.
Well, right now, it's in my garage, so I don't know.
Could you just send out your address and then we can?
Yeah. Yeah, I
I mean,
definitely,
would a business downtown be willing to put them up and say, this is what our kids said about
Yeah,
those possibilities?
How about Roosevelt?
yeah, I mean, we should definitely
Yeah.
not let them
There's a
go,
lot of
yeah.
people coming and going there.
At the very least, we could get decent pictures of them and get them in a
Yeah.
PDF that people
Yeah.
can.
Yeah, because these are great.
Yeah, yeah.
And
really fun.
the kids who are willing to take time and energy and mental effort to do it,
Yeah,
they
They didn't show up
something
in
needs to
Rumble.
happen from it.
yeah,
Because I bet it was cool. I bet they had a great time doing that.
yeah, it sounded like it was pretty awesome. Okay, let's see, oh, now my computer died, so, the rest of our agenda, I mean, we had old business, which there wasn't anything listed, treasurer's report, you don't have anything, no. Written correspondence, I don't think we've gotten anything, I shared with you Marcy's comment, and no other business, so maybe we'll just adjourn and reconvene on July 14th. I'll share my picture that I saw of the sculpture, and
Oh,
cool.
good.
Cool.
whenever we get new information from KSU Tab, we'll share it around and
So a
everybody
question
can.
for Jeremy before.
Yeah.
I know you've been following the legislative stuff.
Yep.
Their date kind of dropped a bomb on us at the close of our last meeting
Right.
Yeah, what was that?
about
Was that-
changes
Tiff.
in TIF and how taxes are gonna flow.
What it was that the 4%, they're raising it from 1.5% to 4%. But if it's not new property coming into the district, we only get 40% of it. And he felt that the legislature was basically trying to do away with URDs and
Yeah.
TIFs by doing this.
So that's the fear, but,
He was
So-
waiting for more information.
Right.
right, so there's, I can't remember the name of the Senate bill, it always spaces, I wanna say one. Basically, it rewrites how the city can charge its mills and how those mills are
Yeah.
calculated. And so you, instead of doing half of the rate of inflation over the last average 3 years, it's up to 4%
Correct.
inflation.
Mm-hmm.
But the newly taxable part, and this is the part where Dave had some concerns, and I'm glad he's getting some legal opinion in from the League of Cities and stuff, but basically, you get 40% of that newly taxable, whether it's new development
Right.
or newly annexed. But that 40%, that whole thing still becomes part of the tax base. It's just in the millage calculation that only 40% of it counts as newly taxable. The rest is considered as if it were always there in terms of the millage calculation.
Yeah.
So you don't get, basically, when you get newly taxable stuff, it's almost like it's exempt from the millage limitation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so now only 40% is exempt in that calculation.
Mm-hmm.
But everything that's still in there. So as far as I understand it, the TIF won't be affected. Because you're still getting, the increment is still calculated the same way. The taxable value within the district will still increase by whatever it increases
Mhm.
by. The only limitation is that the city's mills won't be calculated as advantageously
Mm-hmm.
due to that
Oh.
newly constructed stuff.
Yeah.
That's how I understand it
And,
anyway.
and he was also worried about, it affecting, future annexation.
And that's definitely a thing that you should look at, in terms of the city's
The negative impact. that that
mill
would have.
calculation.
Yeah.
It would still, like I said, as far as I understand it, you still get that, whatever is annexed will still become part of the tax base.
Okay.
It just won't be exempted in that millage calculation where you get,
Yeah, fortunately, the
Yeah.
URD doesn't include any unannexed lands.
by definition, right?
Right.
Because, like,
Right, no, he was more, I didn't quite I'm glad he's getting, like you say, some legal opinion
Yeah.
on it and how it will affect it, because, a lot of these things you don't really know until it goes into effect.
I think he's trying to meet with our local legislators and see just what,
honestly, I'm skeptical that they understood what they passed.
Exactly,
I know,
yeah.
he was gonna
Complicated.
go to the
they
League of
looked at the
Cities and
property
give their
taxes,
opinion.
so.
Yeah, I mean, those are,
I'm skeptical they really looked at what they passed.
the whole thing is
Okay, well, do we have any other business?
I just want to say I really appreciate everything you guys are doing.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Hopefully,
Katie.
you know.
We appreciate what you're doing.
That's better than, you don't have any power at all, why are you
No.
spending your time?
I mean,
Your committee's
I understand your, you know, an advisory board, and I love what the kids have done. Brainstorming new and great ideas are always welcome.
Well, they had ideas we didn't, so.
I know, I'm just like, hey, you
Well,
never
and
know,
it
one of those might work out.
It reinforced what the mostly adults said in the
So,
public meeting, so yeah.
You weren't here, and you left right after, but what were the 5 ever, Jeremy, did you get those all written down?
Housing was number one, I heard that.
The 5.
The 5
The,
important
you know,
votes.
How did the votes
the
go?
stuff we posted. We had
Myrna, do
5
you remember
central
the 5
themes that we
the 5 themes?
coalesced to.
Oh, I
We
did,
have to vote with
Yeah.
our ticket.
oh, I don't know how the vote turned out. I think that's
That's
to
what
be
they're
determined to
gonna
be
tell us.
released, like that's
Yeah.
secret as far as we know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never heard.
No, they threw some numbers out, but it was, do you remember, Myrna?
I was just
They gave-
looking back on my pictures because I thought maybe I took a picture of it, but I don't know.
You know, the thing where we put the tickets in, I remember there was one that we had 99, and one was 94, 95, and another one 90, you know, so
Oh,
they're,
really?
they were kind of,
I didn't get any.
they weren't that far apart.
Okay.
And
Could
the,
people vote
the
on
bottom
that?
one I know was
Yeah, people
planning.
could vote on all the 5.
Yeah, the idea was you get like 10 tickets, I think.
Yeah.
And you can distribute them among
Okay.
however one. So if you're really passionate about one, you can put all 10 in one.
Okay.
So nobody was passionate about planning.
Really?
Yeah.
I put several in that one.
It's like, well, I think we really need to do that first.
It's not sexy.
It's not sexy.
But I do think housing was the number one.
Yeah, it was.
Workforce
I
housing.
got it.
and then- Oh,
Oh, yay.
I found the 5 that you were voting on, right?
Right.
Improved development process / planning was one of
Right.
them.
that was the
Green
last one.
space, multimodal connectivity and trails,
That was high up, yeah.
attainable housing for all ages and mixed use, and a welcoming, attractive entrance to town.
Oh,
So those were the top 3, the attainable housing.
4.
Yeah, but
Attractive
the top 3, planning was
Bottom.
way down, but, the,
Multimodal trails.
multimodal trails was high, and you basically make it look nicer, those were the top.
Get rid of the ugly.
Yeah, that was, yeah,
Get rid of the ugly, that was.
that was our 2.
Yeah,
Cut to the chase, I guess.
Yeah.
but is not beauty in the eye of the beholder?
Not always.
Not all.
Well, now, if you're the owner of a junkyard, you'd like junk.
That's
Right,
You know,
all
it
the
is
treasures.
It's like KY just for the dips.
Okay, well, okay, with that, I guess we'll adjourn. Thank you
Okay.
all very much. And thanks, Myrna.
Thanks, Brenna.
Thank you, friend.
Thanks, Brett.
You
Thanks,
guys.
everyone.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks,
Thanks for
Jody.
See ya. Have a good night. Yep, bye.
Bye, thank you.
I will see you tomorrow.
Darn it. And-
Yeah.
Camera.
Right there.
Oh.